Hi, Sadie. Welcome to the Unhustle podcast. I'm really stoked that you're here today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
And I want to kick this off. I'm just absolutely amazed with how you show up. I've been following you on Instagram and you and I connected. And I want to kick it off with this idea, which you basically your whole life is in women in tech and hustle culture. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, definitely. Happy to talk about it. I'm the founder and executive director of Women in Data. Our focus is to increase diversity in data careers. So if you're new to data careers, it's artificial intelligence, data science, analytics. People often think of robots when they think of AI, but a lot of times it's really just like the recommendation system on Amazon telling you the next thing to buy. That's the best way to describe it. And so it's a relatively new industry, and it is heavily dominated by men. And I have a problem. It's not a problem. I really love underdogs. I love community. And so I was like, we need to fight for women in this space. And community to me is everything. And so that was one of the main factors for starting Women in Data. But really, especially to helping women survive in what can be a really aggressive industry, especially working in corporate America. There's a lot of pressure day to day, and especially not only when you're in a new industry, but when you look different from the majority of people who are your counterparts. It can be definitely hard to show up and be yourself and not lose your values along the way.
I'm fascinated with everything you do, as I said. I mean, I think you're such a brilliant woman, and your message on, especially on social media, is so strong. And it looks like you've built this very vibrant community of women. So how did it all start for you? Give me like the personal journey of how you got to women in tech, women in data.
Yeah, so it started really with a meetup group. I was going into data science myself, and I was like, I need a community. There wasn't one. And so I started a meetup page, and I literally just said, hey, if anybody wants to come to this restaurant and, network, that'd be great. I took a book with me because I was scared that no one would show up. I was there for 15 minutes and no one was there. And I almost started to cry. I was, I think, like 25 at the time. And I called my partner and I was like, what am I doing? This is silly. Like, why am I starting this thing? And he said, just stay 15 more minutes. And so I was like, okay, I can stay 15 more minutes. Like, that seems doable. And so I did. And 3 women ended up showing up. And from there, like, it really just took off. We slowly started to transition out of Meetup. We expanded our chapters first in the US, and now we're actually across the globe in 26 different cities. And it really came from a place of like, just listening to what the community needs, listening even to myself and what I needed as a woman in data, and really just grew what I would call organically by pure need for support in this area.
So you went from 3 women in a restaurant to a global community in what, 3 years?
So it's been coming on 4 years now. It's been really incredible. I would say the first 2 years were the slowest, and then once we figured out really how to scale the program, then things really started to take off. But yeah, I would say be careful, never underestimate some small little idea you have, because it may grow into your full-time job.
So how are women helping each other, and how are you helping women in this program? I'm just absolutely fascinated with that.
So we have a couple different community options. Things have changed quite a bit since since COVID, we a lot of our chapters used to meet locally. Now most everything is done virtually, so we have a really just vibrant Slack community for anyone who wants to join. In there, you can get resume review. You can also get job referrals. There's opportunities for mock interview practice. And then with our founding membership, we also offer coaching too. So we just started a new program where we bring in different coaches and we do group coaching. I am such a huge advocate for life coaching. I know that's also part of Hustle's way. I can't recommend it enough to anyone. So yeah, we're big advocates in just helping, really the whole part of a woman grow in her life and career.
Awesome. Amazing. And so I picked up on a few things. I want to talk about a few things with you that you're so passionate about. So let's talk a little bit about being authentic and showing up as who you are, which you do so well.
Oh, thanks. Behind the scenes, you say I did so well. Behind the scenes, it's still, kind of a crying struggle. I would say, yeah, it's funny. I actually questioned myself when I switched from, I was working in marketing analytics, and I moved buildings at the company I was in. I was going to move into the IT building. And so I remember when I moved over to the IT building, the thought literally came in my head of, should I not wear my pink shoes anymore? And after that thought came in, I was like, no, you got to shut that down. You love your pink shoes. You have to wear. But there was this automatic tendency to just want to fit in. I was like, do I need to start wearing screen print tees and jeans and Converse, to fit in with the tech people? I really thought that. And I came to the conclusion of no, this brings me joy, and I am my best self when I'm coming and working from a place of joy. And if other people are judging it, that's their projection onto me, but that doesn't have to ruin my projection of myself. So I use that example just to say that it's a real thought and it's a real struggle. It doesn't come naturally, but I never regret wearing my pink shoes. And at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to live with myself. So
right, but that takes courage, right? I mean, like we were talking in the beginning, it does take courage to be who you are, be authentic, and then show up and show your female side in a very male-dominated industry. So that's such a good point that you just brought up, that bringing that joy and connecting with that joy. Well, not normally what I encourage people to do is connect with their values. And if your values are, I'm going to be my authentic self, then you have that connection. But it's not that easy for, we do have that egotistical, more so attribute of I need to fit in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a proponent of life coaches. I'm a proponent of therapy, and therapy has helped me. I've worked through a lot to not leave myself, right? To stay in my body and to not abandon myself. And for me, my authenticity comes from a place when I'm taking care of Sadie and I didn't abandon myself. And that's where it first and foremost starts for me to show up, is for me to first be there for myself.
Brilliant. So let's talk about, how do you take care of Sadie? What are some of the self-care practices that you practice yourself?
Well, we were just chatting before about our nails.
Yes.
So that's one. Yeah, I do like the simple pleasures of getting my nails done. Another is finding things that truly spark joy. So a new hobby of mine has recently become painting, and that for me, I've created I turned a shed into my paint studio, and having what I feel is a really safe place for me is so vital for me to go to. one of my values is freedom. And so because in my art studio, I really feel like it's a place I can be free. And so it reinforces those values and then allows me to really recharge.
I think that is such a great hobby. And I used to paint too back in the days. I went to gardening this year, which is
Mm,
new. But I think having a hobby like this, which allows you to be yourself, express yourself, connect with some creativity, and just lose yourself in the flow. Do
mhm.
you find that that also there's a connection there between painting and work?
Definitely. Um, Painting has made me re-fall in love with data. I was at recently kind of a low point in my career with data science because I lost the exploration of it. I think, when you stay in a career for a while, you can lose kind of the novelty of it, and I lost my curiosity for it. And when I started painting, like, I felt like a child again. It was like learning and messing up and exploring, and like those weekend times in the studio, like when I come back to work, I'm like, okay, let's break things, let's mess it up. And it like reinvigorated my curiosity back in work. That's something I'm such a proponent for, is like cross learning. Like, stop trying to become an expert in just one area and your specialty. Like, go learn something totally new, and you'll be amazed at how much it helps with your day-to-day job where you weren't even practicing it in.
And you're hitting on so many key points in there, like curiosity and play and creativity and losing yourself in flow and exploring and learning things that are not your typical 9 to 5 thing, because we get so stuck sometimes in our patterns, right? And it's like, oh, go and explore. For me, it's the mountains. I go out and I go on the lake, or go out on the mountains, or read a book that I wish I had read 10 years ago.
But you make a really good point with the flow aspect. One of the things I've struggled with, and I'm sure others have now that a lot of us are working from home, all communication is virtual, and I feel that I get so many pings. There's so many ways for people to reach me and communicate, and it has totally disrupted my flow at work. And so what I loved about my art studio is I have like a no tech rule in it. There's only one outlet, so I can only choose to plug in like one thing. I can listen to music, but I pretty much shut off all tech, and that's reminded me just of like how valuable like focus time is, because it's now that we're working from home, like I feel like really creating focus time is even more of a struggle.
It's a struggle, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, I completely agree with you. There's so many distractions and it's so easy. And it's really easy to just go on a tangent and have a completely scattered brain day. And I work so hard on trying to minimize the amount of hours I work and try to like do focus work so I can go play. And so, yeah, I've been doing a lot of training in that flow area, which is kind of why I developed the Unhustle Morning practices as well, because I'm like, I need a way to get my mind and my body ready,
Mm-hmm.
and to be at like higher vibration energy so I can get my work done, so I can go and play. And if I think there's so many things we can do because we work from home.
Yeah.
I mean, before it wasn't different. We had meetings and a colleague can walk over and go out and get a coffee. The distractions are still the distractions. I think they're more tied to being the distractions online,
Yeah.
digital distractions versus sometimes personal distractions. But it does require a certain amount of effort to like realize what's going on and then say, okay, I'm going to change that. And I think what you're doing with the painting is so helpful in that area, because being able to get into that flow, then you know how it feels, and then you can repeat that at work.
Yeah, I'm curious, you mentioned you do a morning kind of flow to prime yourself. Do you feel like there's certain things, like when I'm in my studio, the flow just comes naturally, like it just can dip into it. But I'm curious if there's things for you that you can, in a way, prime yourself to get into those flow states with things that don't come as easier.
Sure, I'll tell you what the unhustle morning practice is. I coined it the sunrise method because I needed something to remember it by. And I've been doing it for quite a few years. And I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to like morning practices. So I spent a bunch of time researching this and flow and what primes you to get into flow. So there's actually science behind it. But basically, sunrise, S stands for sleep and making sure you get good sleep. Like without that, you just show up groggy. You can't have clear thinking. So doing the normal, shutting down technology at night, going to bed when the sun goes down. I mean, these kind of things, making sure you're getting a good night's sleep. I'd like to wake up without an alarm. So that means my body's recovered. And now that we can work from home, you can actually do that. U stands for unplug and starting your morning without looking at your phone, because I know the minute you do, your attention goes somewhere else. And for example, today, I started working on editing my book, and a friend called, and I said, I'm just going to roll it into voicemail. And then I did my thing. I went outside and then answered the phone, and it turned out he put his dog down, and it was really sad. And so it's a sad day. But I mean, imagine, anything from this to like, getting bad news about a friend or a loved one, to anything like you check your Instagram and all of a sudden you start responding to people and all of a sudden your attention drifts, right? So eliminating technology keeps your brain focused. N stands for nature. I like to go outside and enjoy sunlight, which also helps you with sleep. So it helps your circadian rhythms. And so I like to go outside, get some fresh air. While I'm outside, I like to do some movement, like some gentle movement for your body. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Anything from a qigong practice or a little bit of yoga, a little bit of stretching, to like a quick HIIT workout. Like I did a bit of a workout today with some weights. Nothing major, but just to kind of get blood going, get your energy going. And then R stands for reading and writing. So that's your journaling. Reading a good book, because I'm working on like improving my reading and writing and communication skills, but also your creativity. I like to read a good book by somebody I'm not saying grab a book and read for an hour, just like for 5 minutes. And I stands for intention. So setting your intentions for the day, like what are your most important projects that you want to work on that day. There's a bit of a process that goes with that. S is for the stillness part, which is your meditation, mindfulness, gratitude, which sometimes I do outside. Sometimes, I kind of stack them all up so they don't take forever. It takes 20 to 30 minutes to do them all. And E is for energy. That's your workout. That's your, high performance drink in the morning. It's something that you're feeding your brain. So that's like I refer to it, the sunrise method. I have found out that when I run through that, and I don't always do all of these practices at the same time. I kind of pick and choose based on how I feel, because sometimes I may feel like, oh, my energy is really low. So I may sit on the couch and do some breathing and some meditation, have a coffee and kind of get into my day. Some days I can run through all of them, but once you start stacking them, I find that it's really easy to run through them all. And so they're kind of my morning practices. I definitely notice a difference when I do them and when I get out of doing them. Oh, and I take a cold shower. That's under the energy. So if you haven't woken up, a cold shower, or I jump in the lake, that definitely does it. Yep, that does it.
I definitely am a fan of the cold plunges. I haven't switched over to the cold showers yet, but I'll do a cold plunge in a lake for sure.
Yeah, that's what I do in the morning. Every morning I just jump in the lake. I sit in there for a couple of minutes. If I don't go to the lake, I just turn it. I take my normal shower, and then at the end, I turn on the cold water for like 30 seconds or something. And I don't do like an ice plunge necessarily. I just use a little bit of cold therapy to wake me up. But yeah, Wim Hofing is good for you. So that's kind of the unhustle morning practices. I definitely, it's changed my life doing them, because I realized that when I don't do them, I start my day very scattered brain. And when you take, I don't care what you do, I think when you take a little bit of time in the morning for yourself, and you start your morning slowly, and you take care of your health and your well-being, mind and body, I think you can get your energy and your mind and body ready to get into that flow state. And to me, that's the biggest reason for these practices, is so you can start with focus, you can feel good, you can feel energized, you can feel clear, and you can be more open to get into a state of flow.
Yeah, I have my morning rituals. I'm happy that you don't go through all of them in one day. I definitely pick and choose from mine, because one of the things I've done a little bit more is really listen to my body and what that needs,
Exactly.
and make permission to be like, hey, it doesn't have as much energy. It's okay to take a little bit slower morning. You don't have to do that, the power workout every morning.
Exactly. And so I used to have to get to the gym at 6 o'clock and do like an hour hardcore workout, and then I would feel completely depleted for the rest of the day. And this is exactly why I completely changed my morning practices. It's like, no, you have to listen to your body. You have to listen to your tune in with your energy, check in with yourself in the morning, and then give it what your body needs. And that's why it's kind of pick and choose. It's not really a routine, it's pick and choose, but it's having the tools in the toolbox to say, okay, today I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do this. This isn't like crushing it workout. It's, if I have a lot of energy, sure, I can do 50 squats and 25 push-ups and call it a workout.
Definitely. But yeah, just giving yourself permission is a very freeing thing.
Yeah, exactly. So permission. Let's talk a little bit about you. You talk about dealing with ego, especially in your profession, and how do you address that whole ego-driven mindset in what you do?
Yeah, I recently feel like I've been doing a lot of Tai Chi, where there's energy coming at me, but I can redirect it and not let it come and affect me. And that has taken a long time, I feel like, to learn, is just because that's one person's perception in their world, it doesn't have to be mine. And that has came from a place of setting boundaries for me, which came from a place of really finding my own voice and speaking up about it. I think especially for new people coming into their career, they're so afraid to say no, especially, to a boss or people who are higher above them, that it can be hard to set those boundaries. And that's what I struggled with in the beginning, was how do I find my own voice and set those boundaries when, I feel like I don't have the authority to. And, with a lot of coaching again, I found that voice, and, I was amazed by it, because I can now speak up, and not only is it freeing for me and feels better in my body, but it also then gives others permission around me to do the same. And so there's this ripple effect that happens, that's really quite incredible.
So you mentioned you did a lot of coaching, but I'm wondering, for the people who are listening to this podcast, are there any practical tips that you're willing to share to help them find their own voice based on your experience?
Yeah, so, well, I'll give you one example of how I knew I wasn't having my own voice. My body is very receptive. I actually developed like a locked jaw. And so when I was at night, I was so stressed from not speaking up in the day that I was grinding my teeth, and to the point that I also, like, my jaw was popping in and out. I could barely eat. And so that was my low point of like, okay, something needs to happen and something needs to be done. And so what I did was really start with small achievable goals. Like, I didn't take down, my scariest boss and scariest person in power. Like, I wasn't ready to stand up to that person, right? I started with just setting like boundaries that I felt were achievable. And so one of the first things I did with setting the boundaries was I would create an hour of Sadie time every day. And like, it didn't seem like that much, but like that for me was a big first boundary to set, because at that time work was, you know, controlling my life. And so that to me was like a small achievable goal. And from there, once I had set that first boundary, one, it gave me time to nurture myself so that I could fight the bigger battles and speak up, right? But two, it also made me want more of it. It was like, this tastes good. Like, I like this recharge. I like saying no to, and then to say yes to myself, right? And so from there, then it allowed me to kind of take on things that I felt were bigger battles, I'll say, in terms of, you know, additional boundaries of speaking up for what I believed in. And that really came from a process of, again, setting my values and knowing what my values were, so that when I was speaking up, I knew it was from a place that was truth for me.
That is so good, Sadie. I mean, that is such a good journey that you just shared. And starting small, I think, is such a key step. Like, start with something small. Start with like, no, I'm not gonna have this for breakfast.
Yeah. No, you know, there was another one was I got rid of a lot of clothes, and I'm just like, a lot of them was like, this really doesn't make me happy. Like, I think I bought it because I felt like that was like the professional business women's wear, right? And like, just even simple things, like start with going through your closet and be like, does this make me happy? You know, it can be those small little things. And then once you get a taste of it, it will grow.
So I have to share a story with you on that,
Yes.
because it sounds like we share the similar journey in that respect, because my journey started with my closet too. It's totally. So I was, you know, professionally dressed marketing, highly paid consultant, and I had a bunch of clothes, and I didn't have anything to wear, right? You know that you open your closet full of clothes and you have nothing to wear. And I felt completely overwhelmed, and my days would start with, you know, a 1 hour CrossFit workout, which would leave me depleted. And then I opened the closet and I would start frustrated because I'm like, I have nothing to wear. I hired an image consultant. And she was phenomenal to work with, because she wasn't a consultant, because I was thinking, oh, we're going to go shopping because I have nothing to wear. Yeah. And there was no shopping. I mean, she was amazing to work with, because she started by figuring out who I am, and working with a bunch of words and figuring out my words. I still have my words in the closet, but it's like 5 words. And she said, these are your words, and you have to dress based on these words. And then we went in the closet and we took everything out, and we set 3 piles, so like the yes, the no, and the maybes. And I had to put everything on. I had to tell the story of everything I put on, how it makes me feel. And it took, I don't know, about 3 hours probably. But by the end, I had minimized so much of my closet, and we got rid of so much. And I was disappointed because I didn't get to go shopping, because I didn't need to go shopping. I maybe needed like a top or something. It was like 2 or 3 things that she recommended that I get. I still have the same closet, and it's still that way organized. And, you know, I lived in an airstream. So when I got to live in an airstream for 4 months, I realized how little we really need to be happy. And granted, I didn't have to put on, you know, professional clothes in the airstream, right? But still, I think we are so obsessed with more, where in reality, less is more. And I'm so much happier these days than when I used to be. And it takes so less time to deal with it.
Yes. Oh, I love that story. I also love how it came back to the same thing, right? Which is really about knowing your values, right? You had to identify those words. I've done full vision boards of myself before I go into my closet. I've called it even like Sadie 2.0 or whatever, just to give me the mindset of like, this is who I am, and this is what I want to create. And I want everything to resonate from that.
I think, yeah, I mean, try put your values in the wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
And see if you can dress for that, because I think it was so just liberating.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I have a caveat with that. It completely destroyed my shopping experience. It completely destroyed it, because now when I go to the store and I look at something, before I would have been like, yeah, I think that'll work. I mean, that's good enough. It's on sale. It's not that much money. Now it's like, oh, hang on a second. Does it work for the values? Is it really me? Is it really authentically me? Do I really love this piece? And do I really need this piece? So I go through this mental process for everything, and I just end up walking away. So,
but I feel like the confidence that comes with that too, right? One of the things I notice, especially with working with women a lot and in their career, there can be kind of this hesitancy or this lack of confidence. And when you know your values, I mean, just that fact of like how you describe going shopping, right? Like, I know, yes, this isn't me, or no, it is, right? Like, that's liberating to have that confidence. And then one, just how easy it makes your decisions. That's what I love, is like my decisions become black and white. There's no this, kind of, maybe, shoulda, like those words are out of my vocabulary, and that to me is such liberation.
I couldn't agree more. So tell me, what is the most courageous thing you can think of that you've done?
I think those would probably, starting Women in Data was definitely a leap of faith. But one that I remember really vividly was when I was 26, I emailed the CEO of our company to go on a project. And I literally, when I sent the email, I like turned away and closed my eyes, because this was, a Fortune 500 corporation. I was not anybody to be known at the time, so this was way above my reach and league. But I really just believed in what was happening and what was going on for this project. And again, this comes down to the values, right? And finding my courage. Like, when I heard about the project, I was like, I'm supposed to work on that. Like, I know that is me. Like, all of my values just lit up. And from there, I was able to, have the courage to reach out to people I wouldn't normally email and say, hey, you need to make sure I'm on this project. And they responded, and it was the most amazing, experience ever. It was everything I hoped it to be. And I think just doing the things that scare you is so important, but just making sure it resonates again back with your values, because that's like the only way you're going to have the courage to make that leap.
So basically, did you ask yourself the question, what's the worst that can happen, or what's the best that can happen?
I did ask the worst that could happen, but again, I was in an irrational state when I was scared. I'm like, okay, so they just read the email and, it's not that, nothing negative would happen, right? But there was like just this fear of like, who am I to essentially email this person in power, right? That doesn't know me. So there were no rational thinking behind the fear, but it was still fear.
But I think that's a really good point that you just brought up. It's like sometimes getting out of your head
mm-hmm.
and in your body is a lot of like my coaching program was all based on. It's all that's why a lot of these practices in the morning are putting you back in your body, working with your body energy and out of your mind, because that's like a really good way to deal with your ego and to deal with any self-limiting beliefs and to find that courage and to, find that clarity that you're like, yeah, that's what I want to do, connect with the intuition. So yes. you even mentioned it when you send the email. You said, I close my eyes. So you remember that it wasn't like, I just send the email and close my computer, right? You close your eyes. Well, Sadie, I really could. I can keep going on this, but I want to be. I want to be sensitive to your time. I know you're busy woman entrepreneur, and it's Friday afternoon, and I know you have a happy hour with your team to go to. So I want to let you go. Just one final thing before you go. Two actually. One is, what do you say to to people who are hustling, and two is like, where can people find out more about you and Women in Data?
Yeah, so to people who are still hustling, I would say it doesn't have to be that hard. Like, you really, you really can have it all, and it can be easy. And I think for me, that was like the most mind-blowing thing, right? It's like, it's not going to make me less of a successful person. I'm not going to give up any of my dreams and my goals. If anything, it's going to turbocharge them more. And that's the biggest limiting belief I had before, is that I would have to give up something. And the only thing you're giving up is the stress and the strain, you know? So yeah, that'd be number one. And then if you want to find out more about me and connect, I'm fairly active on Instagram. It's just Sadie St. Lawrence is my handle. You can also connect with me at my website, sadiestLawrence.com, or at womenindata.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sadie. It's been great to connect with you, and yeah, enjoy the weekend.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure.